We had some breaking news the other day that is such an amazing thing for the New York Rangers and the entire NHL in general. But mainly today, we're going to be focusing on how much this cap could truly go up and also take a look and really kind of dive in deep to how much money the New York Rangers could have to spend this upcoming offseason in free agency, to acquire players via trade to really kind of add towards this team who's obviously trying to win a Stanley Cup. Now, we'll see what happens this season, but obviously going into the future with this cap presumably going up quite a bit and a lot more than most expected, this is great news for the New York Rangers, who are obviously a team trying to win a Stanley Cup and are right up near against the cap. So in today's video, we'll dive into that and more. And quickly, before we dive into today's video, I just want to let you all know that, like yesterday, I am pretty sick right now, so if I sound a little weird or a little off, that is obviously why. But let's dive into the post here on X from James Myrtle, which was kind of breaking the news here. He says, interesting, Elliot Friedman reporting on the broadcast tonight that next year's salary cap could actually be pushed well over the 5% growth limit, up to as much as $95 million to $97 million. Right now, per the CBA, it's set to go to $92.4 million, but with revenues so high, it makes sense to bump it higher, but that jump has to be negotiated between the NHL and NHLPA. And I'm sure, presumably this happens. This would be absolutely amazing for the New York Rangers. The current cap right now is at $88 million, so if it could jump up, $7 to $9 million more than what it is right now, I think that would be such a massive help for this New York Rangers team. I mean, that, $9 million or so dollars pretty much covers, the Mika Zibanejad contract, for example, or that Jacob Trouba contract. Now, maybe we do get off of that Jacob Trouba contract this upcoming offseason, but my point still stands that that potentially $9 more million on the cap for the New York Rangers would be such a key thing for this team to really continue to build out this squad into a true contender, because, right now we definitely see the holes that we have on this team currently, but with an extra potentially $9 million to spend in this upcoming free agency with the guys that we have coming off the books could be a huge help for this team long term. And having that extra, potentially $7 to $9 million going on the cap, and, with all the players coming off the books as well, and there is a decent amount of them that'll open up an additional, good amount of cap space as well. And then if we see a guy like Keandre Miller possibly traded away instead of re-signing him and getting rid of that Trouba contract potentially, and there are a lot of other moves this team could make, but if the Rangers get off another player or two, especially a guy Jacob Trouba, who is obviously making $8 million for next season, and this one right now, obviously, if we get off that contract, even if we had to retain, let's say $4 million, half that contract, that would open up a great amount of money for this team to really go out there and acquire some star-level players, not just some, all right, middle six kind of forward or a, okay kind of second pairing defenseman, or like a more of a kind of like a third pairing guy on the defensive side of things there. That could allow us to go out there and really kind of bring in some star and really impactful level players to really help push this team along, because we know there are some big holes still on this team. We definitely need some better defensemen on this squad here, some tougher guys, some more reliable guys defensively, some solid puck movers as well, ideally. So having this much amount of cap space, if you can get rid of some other contracts as well, we could have a massive offseason, a ton of fun as well. I mean, it would be great to see this team go out there and potentially have an insane amount of money to spend, go out there and get some guys in free agency, some trades, and, the Rangers have some pretty good assets as well. Obviously, we don't have all of our picks, but we still have all of our first rounders for the future, which is a really, really nice thing to have. We've got some of our other picks as well. We've got some pretty solid prospects. We've got some young talent on this roster who could possibly be moved. So there are some pretty key assets here on this Rangers team to, possibly trade away and acquire some really great impactful players, whether it is at this deadline or waiting until this upcoming offseason when the cap is expected to jump up an insane amount. And now let's really kind of dive into the fun bit here and really take a look at how much money the New York Rangers are going to possibly have to spend this upcoming offseason, whether it is via, for trade guys or possibly via free agency. So when I kind of did the math here and you take off all the expiring contracts, including the UFAs and RFAs, all the guys whose contracts are going to expire this upcoming offseason, the Rangers will have about $61.9 million on the cap. Now, you have to add on that $5.125 million pay raise that Alexis Lafreniere has gotten with his new extension, which I'm an absolutely massive fan of that extension. I love that deal, especially if the cap is going to jump up, even higher than initially thought. That would just look like an even better deal already, which it already looks like a great deal and a very team-friendly one. With the cap jumping up this much, it'll look even better. So the $61.9 million on the cap, plus that $5.125 million pay raise for Lafreniere's new extension. And then we'll add on that $12 million that I would guess that, Igor Shesterkin's next contract is going to come in around. Something around that 12 mil mark is kind of my guess. I mean, who knows exactly what will happen, but let's just assume here he's going to have this new contract come in at about $12 million. The New York Rangers could have somewhere around, I would say, about $16 to $18 million to spend this upcoming offseason in cap space. I mean, that would be absolutely phenomenal to have $16 to $18 million in cap, while also, counting for Lafreniere's new extension, his pay raise that he got, and also adding on that $12 million potential new contract that Igor Shesterkin could get. Having $16 to $18 million, you got Lafreniere locked up, you got Igor locked up. That puts this team in a pretty good spot there, especially if you can get off the contract of Jacob Trouba, whether it is, the full $8 million, or let's say we retain half the money there for $4 million cap it, retained on the books there for one season. That could allow us to have, anywhere from like $20 to, $22 million, or possibly even higher, up to like, $24 to $26 million. I mean, that would be an insane amount of cap space for a team who is trying to compete for a Stanley Cup. Now, I do imagine we're probably going to let a guy like Ryan Lindgren walk in free agency. That's kind of my guess there. Maybe he does get re-signed because we are probably going to have a lot of cap space, but assuming he walks there, you could definitely add in a guy to kind of fill his spot there for, that $5 to $6 million price tag there and really get a key impactful defenseman who could probably provide a much better impact than a guy like Ryan Lindgren can. I'm a big fan of Lindgren. I think he's a good player, but obviously that puck moving ability is just not great. He gets injured a lot there. So I do think that letting him walk in free agency and going out there and trying to get a different guy to possibly go alongside, whether it is Adam Fox or see one of the younger guys hop up there or whatever ends up happening there, whoever it does play alongside Adam Fox there. Either way, this team's going to have a lot of money, it seems like, to spend in free agency to go out there and acquire a lot of key players. And maybe the Rangers do look to also possibly trade away a guy like Keandre Miller plus a first-rounder, potentially, maybe this year's first-rounder and a prospect or another pick added on there, or Keandre Miller and a prospect and a lower-tier pick, and go out there and get a better defenseman who's, ready and just kind of better right now, you could possibly say. I mean, there are a lot of moves this team could make here. There are still some solid young players on this squad who could possibly be moved here, but obviously you're not going to move a guy like, honestly, Will Cooley, Alexis Lafreniere. There are some young guys who I definitely don't want to see moved away, but, does a guy like Zach Jones, does his value kind of jump up a lot here? And a team, you're really interested in him, and you're throwing, Zach Jones and a prospect and a pick or two, and you're going out there and acquiring a really solid player back. I mean, there are a lot of different moves this team could possibly make there. We have some key young guys who could possibly end up getting moved. I mean, who still probably have a decent amount of value there. Maybe Zach Jones, Keandre Miller. You've always got a guy like Capo Kakko. So there are some players who could possibly end up getting moved alongside another asset or two to really acquire possibly a star level guy. Maybe you do, Kakko, Keandre Miller, and 2 firsts and go out there and get an absolute beast of a player, forward and defenseman. I mean, there are just so many different moves this team could possibly make. I'm so excited to see what could happen this upcoming offseason. I mean, having anywhere from, on the low end, it seems like, to having $16 million to spend after you're adding on, Lafreniere and Igor's new contracts on the cap there. I think this could be an absolutely amazing thing for the New York Rangers here, especially if this cap does jump up a lot, but it obviously matters what kind of, Chris Drury and this front office ends up doing with the moves they make. But all in all here, Chris Drury and this front office are going to be put in a decent position to go out there and acquire some real star-level impactful players, whether it is on the forward side of things or the defenseman or both, which I definitely think we could benefit from. Adding in another centerman as well would not be a bad idea. And this also does allow this team at the deadline to, not just look for rental kind of players, but also possibly, or rental guys, obviously, and then look to re-sign them, or possibly go out there and acquire some guys with term as well. Maybe go out there and you have to add on that extra asset or two to really kind of get a guy who does have a couple years on his contract, but it could benefit this team a lot in the long term to go out there and acquire some real key players under contract for multiple seasons, with this Rangers team cap situation wise looking a little better going forward, especially once Jacob Trouba's contract is off the books as well. If we can move on from him, that would open up an insane amount of money, more than we already are looking at, which is around that $16-18 million range, I would say, on the potential low end. Now, if my math is off here in this video, definitely correct me in the comment section down below. is what it is here. I believe my math is about right, but if I'm wrong, definitely correct me in the comment section down below. I'm just really happy about this situation going forward. Not right now. Obviously, the team's not looking perfect right now, but Chris Drury will presumably be put in a great spot to make this team a whole lot better than what it is this season going into the future as well. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. I really appreciate all the support you all show on these videos. Thanks for watching, and definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on this cap situation here going up quite a bit. You know, who do you want to see the Rangers kind of trade away? Who do you want to see them trade for with this additional cap space this team could possibly have this upcoming offseason? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one. See ya.